Go out and say, look, if I draw this picture, what story is it telling you? There's absolutely no reason, like any other product on the planet, that you can't go out and try different ideas with people before it becomes important. That's where collaboration and all of those good sorts of things. And I sit here and I go, that every marketer I've talked to on the planet would be fired if they only sold their product using a bunch of words. Plus, when you think about this, and when you think about the idea of self-promotion, you also have to have the conversation about why does it feel gross? Why is it that when we talk about self-promotion, we're like, ugh, I hate it. It's disgusting. It's because when you think about self-promotion, what you're trying to do is talk about what you've done. And when you only talk about what you've done, it's basically this big, like, look at how fantastic I am. Well, of course that sounds and feels a bit icky. And if you're not talking about what you're done and you're talking about your fabulous self, you're actually coming up to what I now call the fiction line. And the fiction line is this space between fantasy and what might be you and reality and what is you. And if you are not right up against the fiction line, so not overselling and saying like, I'm all of these things. This is like when we see people who are doing the icky self-promotion, it's usually because they're going, I am fabulous and all of these sorts of things. And we know it's not actually true. But if you are underselling, if you are not actually promoting yourself right up to the fiction line, you're actually offering a lesser version of yourself. And as somebody who worked with all sorts of teams, hired all sorts of people, collaborated on all sorts of things, if you brought a lesser version of yourself to the table, I would be mad, right? We all want to meet and learn about the very best version of you, but not the version that is fiction. So as you are thinking about how to think about the graphics that tell the story about you, how do you get all the way up to that line where you're like, this is going to be uncomfortable because I feel like I'm just up at that line, because you really need to think about this. And this is why, as I go through the conversation today, I'm also going to give you ideas and concepts on how to kind of try some of these things on for size, because while we are talking about you today and your future, and if you are new to the Joanna Show, you have not heard this. If you are a regular, you're going to hear it again. But every decision made about you is made in a room that you are not in, right? Which basically means, like, if that statement is true, it is. First, are you part of the consideration set? Like, do they even know you exist? And pro tip, folks, if your boss knows your name, it doesn't necessarily mean he or she is talking about you. Consideration set is not just awareness. It's actually, do they know you? And then second of all, what are they saying about you? And are they saying things like, oh, so-and-so is really good at getting things done? Or so-and-so is such a really lovely person to work with? Or are they talking about your unique value? Because if they're talking about the first stuff, well, that's kind of boring and sounds like everybody else, which is why you don't get in that consideration set. So I come back and say, okay, so Joanna, you've now told me that when I talk about myself and when I'm promoting myself, I need to come right up to the fiction line without crossing over, because those people are beginning to be the icky kind of promotion. And while it's about me, it is not about me at all. It's actually about how other people tell the story of me. And how do I find out what that is? So challenge number one on the show. These are things that you could do in the next hour after the show and actually prove this out to you. I want you to find somebody who has for lack of a better term, rented your future time before. This could be a colleague, this could be a vendor, this could be a customer, this could be your boss, this could be somebody who is just one of your best friends. Does not matter. I just want you to pick somebody who you're like, you know what? I think they think I'm awesome, at least a little bit. I want you to go ask them. And I want you to say, how would you describe me if I wasn't in the room? And you are immediately going to find out whether the person who is already a champion of you, your advocate, is saying something interesting about you. And pro tip here too, we actually do this exercise for all of the people who come work with me personally. And what we have found out across the board is that ultimately what people are saying about you in the room that you're not in is not what you expect them to say. We have yet to have anybody go, oh, I totally knew they were going to say that. So ask at least one person, you're going to find out some others. But it is going to you are going to find out in that state what it is you have been teaching people and what they are saying about you in a room that you're not in. Super important, super critical. Okay, that is my first perspective shift I want you to have, that while it's about you, it's not about you. And I want you to be intentful about the story that you are telling in the future. So second really important part of this equation is, okay, every decision made about you is made in a room that you're not in. The other thing that you need to understand is, how are they choosing? Now, I know I had a bit of a story I used to tell myself when I was earlier in my career and I didn't know any better, that when my boss was in a room talking about a problem that needed to be solved, or a promotion that needed to be given out, or a new opportunity that was coming on the horizon, I thought he always was talking about me, and or was always going, let's think about what Joanna could do. I learned that was not always the case, because he had me in a box, he had me in a category, and I wasn't teaching him who I was. And so this is when I first started thinking, well, how are people thinking about who I am and what I'm all about, and how are they making those decisions? And the reality is, and I am going to oversimplify this at kind of an epic level, this is what happens in the room when you are not there. And I say this because I've been in the room, and my guess is many of you have too, is you sit there and you go, we as a company, as a team, as an organization, have a problem that we need to solve. And to be able to solve that problem, we need somebody who's really great at X. Doesn't actually matter what X is. And then everybody goes, do I know anybody who can do X? Do we have somebody internally who can do X? And then they go, oh, well, you know what? Maybe, you know what? Peter's really great at X. But is what Peter's working on more important than what this other opportunity is? It might be. So they might go, yeah, no, I'm not Peter. And that conversation eventually leads to, who are we going to give this opportunity to? And how do they think about all of that? And what they're evaluating is one of three things. Well, actually, they're evaluating all things to make a decision about you in a room that you're not in. If they know who you are, who is past you, what have you done? What is your reputation? What are you known for? And in the world of marketing, what is your brand? FYI, for those of you that came on this and said, oh, I need to create a personal brand, heads up, you already have one, because you have been teaching people who you are and what you're all about for years. I would say it started in like maybe infancy. Present you, which is actually much more about your personality and who you are and how you operate. And then future you. And future you is their belief of how you can solve problems in the future. Now, what we all know is you can't change your past. It takes quite a lot of effort to change your reputation and who you are. You can't actually go back and travel in time, as much as I'd like that idea to be able to do, although it scares me a tiny bit too. I would also argue that your personality is fundamentally what it is. I know my 8-year-old self rages inside of me on a regular basis. She hasn't actually changed over the years. I'm curious to anybody who's gone through a major personality change without some sort of dramatic life change associated with it. The future you, however, is completely an open book. You actually have the chance in life to define who the future you is on every single day. But because we don't have that conversation, people put stories on who they believe the future you is. It's part of why I'm also known for saying that potential is infinitely easier to recognize when it looks and sounds like you. People are telling stories about who the future you could be already based on the past and present you. I sit here and say, oh, well, hang on a second. If they're actually choosing the future you, how do you tell that story better? And how do you figure out what that is? And that's where I sit here and go, graphics can make a fantastic difference. Okay, so which comes to challenge number 2, another way to figure out what people are saying about you in the room that you're not in, so you can start understanding what stories people are already saying. And I'm giving you these questions because they're easy, they're fun, they're quick to do, and the answers are more than, but you're really awesome and you're really good at getting shit done, which is a boring answer. My second question I want you to go out there and ask somebody different on this one is say, hey, quick question. If I had a warning label in the workplace, what would it be? And this idea of warning label will actually give you insight into what people actually see you do. FYI, my warning label is don't sit next to Joanna unless you want your dreams to come true, because she's going to figure out a way to make it manifest. Which, when I first heard it, I was like, I'm not that scary. And they were like, yes, you are. People need to be warned before they sit next to you. But now I completely embrace it. I think it's delightful. So what is your warning label? Here is my bonus challenge for you. I want to hear what the answers are because I think it's a really fun answer. So if you either follow me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter, either one, like write it up, tag me and put it in there because I would love to see what your answers are about. Because what the answer to that question is going to tell you is what is innately you and also not you at the same time. Okay, I am now going to move on from the whole concept of storytelling and now start talking about imagery and the power of imagery in there. So first of all, Nerdy Joanna has to come out because I want to give you some of the statistics. And this is why visuals are critically important. We learn and remember 90% of what goes in our heads happens through visual inputs. Like you are looking at me, you've also got all of this peripheral stuff going on around you. And I guarantee you that if Oprah Winfrey walked into your house right now, you'd be all like, peace out, Joanna, because you saw her and you had a whole story. 90% of our input is visual. We also understand things and remember and learn things 60,000 times faster when we see it as an image versus when we see it as a word. And when it comes to memory, we are 65% more likely to remember things when we see it as a visual, as opposed to seeing it as a graphic. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So first of all, I saw this week, which I was like, oh my God, don't you love it when somebody really tells a story? There is not a narrative around this. This Andreas von der, however we say his last name, didn't even need to say the difference between raw data and the stories data can tell as an opening. He could have just put the lovely Lego bricks on here, but what a brilliant way of explaining the power of data through a visual medium. I'll show you another example. I follow a visual data scientist on Twitter, and this is one of their examples of plan versus process. Imagine this didn't even have the words up top. You'd absolutely understand what it's about. And then last but not least on here, one of my favorite social media accounts to follow is Liz and Molly, who say such profound things about life and the world of work, and they tell it all with these very simple, beautiful images. Like I have no doubt that every single one of you could actually figure out what Liz and Molly are trying to share here. It's super simple to tell a story using graphics, right? Okay, so how then do you start doing this for you? Okay, we're going to start getting super tactical now, semi-super tactical. I have 4 questions that I think are critical in figuring out what kind of graphic, what is it you need to be, what is it you need to do to teach somebody? First, really important question, what is it you want next? So yes, could you create a logo if you're a brand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reality for human beings is we are all on, I think, a bit of a career adventure. And instead of saying, you know, I want to create the greatest product in the world, which is a bit vague, we all seem to kind of bob and weave through our careers. And so having a bit of an idea around what is next for you is critically important, because that then helps you answer, who is it you need to teach? Now, if you look at the world of marketing, one of the core rules of marketing is if your audience is everybody, your audience is nobody. So think about who it is you need to teach. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I was talking with an executive of a finance company out of Asia the other day. And as we asked the question, what is it he wanted next? And who is it we needed to teach? We realized that there were literally 10 people on the planet that we needed to teach about the future you. And so we had a whole conversation with him about, like, who are the 10 people? What are they like? Why do they care? And specifically, you can see questions 3 and 4. What is it you want them to remember? And how do you make it easy for them to teach other people? We really had a focused conversation. Versus I have another person I'm working with who just started a brand new job. They have 100 people on their team. They've got an enormous amount of peers that they're going to have to teach about the future of them. And while their new boss certainly hired them, there's going to be other executives that we have to teach. And so as she and I were working together, we were like, okay, what do we need to teach the people who are reporting into you, your peers, and your above? And how do we make sure that that is consistent across all 3? So the third question is, okay, what is it you want them to remember? Because while it's about you, it's not about you. And remember, in the every decision made about you is made in a room that you're not in. They actually have to remember how to talk about you. And then last but not least, how do you make it easy for them to teach other people? Okay, I want to show, this all sounds really simple. In practicality, I don't want you to be flippant and, oh, hang on a second, I just need to do this one thing, because what I find in that scenario is that you do not go deep enough. And I pulled this out, this serendipitously dropped in my lap today. This was a quote from the creative brief to the designers creating the Coca-Cola bottle, which is now an iconic image. And look at how they wrote that. A bottle so distinct that it could be recognized by touch in the dark or when lying broken on the ground. This is how deep and rich I want you to go through these questions and think about, like, what is it you want to teach and how do you want to teach it? Because it needs to be unique, it needs to be memorable, it needs to be easy to remember, all of the things. Okay, so enough about my Coke bottle example. So let me give you some examples of how to do these. And these are all real people that we have worked with. So as an example, Zarina here needed to have her audience understand how she thinks. And so we created a graphic which has got a little bit of language, as you can see on there, but enough imagery to tell a story all the way down to her headshot and what was in the middle. And I don't really need to tell you anything else about Zarina, but you can, my guess is you can already tell a little bit of a story about who she was and what she was all about. So Zarina's goal was to teach somebody how she thought. And that's where we use what is kind of like a Venn diagram to tell that story. Second one was I had an individual who was trying to get a new job and was running into an objection. And the objection was people did not understand her past and how it led to her future. And because she went from as you can see, a CPA to a lawyer to a CFO. And we used the career timeline here to actually tell the story of how she has evolved over time and why this makes sense to move things forward. FYI, she got the job, she is super fabulous, all of that sort of thing. So this was an objection, like what is it she needed to teach and to whom? This was people looking for a job, and we needed to overcome an objection with the graphic. And then last but not least, we also had another individual who was trying to tell the story of their ambitions, because like many of you guys, their ambitions changed over time. And this is similar to the timeline, but this talked about their skills as somebody having an ambition and where it is they wanted to go. And most specifically, you can see they wanted to have the manager conversation with the people that they were talking through. So really simple graphics that tell really powerful stories. I think you can all see the stories that were told from these individuals as they've walked through. So how do you start thinking about it? So I think like start experimenting and practicing, like think about who it is you need to teach and what it is you need to teach them. And while I said, like, don't be flippant, don't kind of wash over things, like start drawing simple things. And when I say start drawing simple things, you do not have to be an artist. If you have been to any of my shows, you will have seen that I do the draw a bunch of circles on a Venn diagram thing all the time. You could tear this piece of paper out and give it to people all the time. Very easy way. You do not have to be pretty with your drawing, but you do want to be a drawer. And go out and find another person and experiment with them. Go out and say, look, if I draw this picture, what story is it telling you? There's absolutely no reason, like any other product on the planet, that you can't go out and try different ideas with people before it becomes important. So if you haven't already heard the kind of the hidden tip in here, it is really important to surround yourself with people who are advocates of the future you. And I have no doubt that you have people in your past who have played that role for you. And they are really great people to do short, easy, and helpful experiments with. And if any of you are sitting here saying, oh my God, I can't ask them, rubbish. Here's why. I want you to put yourself in the mentor's shoe, the person who's getting this, can you look at this and tell me the story you're telling lesson? How many of you, when somebody comes to you and goes, hey, can you give me your feedback on something really specific that helps them be a better person, is like, oh my God, this is a pain in the ass? Not seeing any ads. How many of you say, oh my God, this makes me really feel great and like I can actually help somebody? Right? Asking for help in a very specific and tactical way is actually one of the most generous things that you can do, because it helps remind them why they matter. So my challenge for you on the graphic is we are going to up the ante a tiny bit and actually challenge you to participate. We offer these at every show, which is a 2-week text challenge. You want to have me behind the scenes helping you do all of this and create a graphic and figure out how to teach people about the future you. We have a 2-week text program. We send you a text on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And yes, it comes from my phone. And yes, I respond to your answers because I'm going to make you draw things and take pictures, and I will respond back and all of this sort of stuff. Literally about 10 minutes of your time, maybe 15 each week. It's a 2-way conversation, as I said. All you need to do is go into the chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, the link will be below, or you'll also get it in the email, and sign up. It is a whopping $10 because I want you to have a tiny bit of skin in the game to do this. And if you do not have some sort of like aha moment during the 2 weeks of texting, now you actually have to participate. You can't just go, I'm gonna get the text and then do nothing. If you don't have an aha moment on all of this, I will absolutely refund you your $10 because I am that convinced that you're going to want to do it. So if you want to sign up, the link again is in the chat, and we will be starting the next challenge on Monday. So you can absolutely participate. So the lesson here on this one is action, action, action. Okay. That is the idea. Oh, I've done really well on time. Now I want to get into a little bit of practical application. So Kelly, did we get any volunteers while I was
We did
having my little rant?
Yes, one of our favorites, Trisha, she volunteered.
Trisha, where are you? Oh, hi, it is awesome to see you. Why do you need help creating a graphic that explains your unique awesome? What's going on?
I'm looking for a new job. I'm looking for a new opportunity. So I thought it was time to really think about where I want to be.
Okay.
And since I've been giving that some really good thought, I figured I've seen you before doing this, and I figured I needed to come back and really do the framework this time around. I did it halfway the last time, so I'm going to do it all the way
this time. Awesome.
This time.
Okay, so so what do you want next? Let's ask the questions.
I want a VP job where it truly is a VP job, where I am managing and guiding both managers who are managing then reps. So it's not just being a sales manager or a regional manager, but truly being a VP of sales, where I have more input as to what our direction of the company is going and how to get there.
Okay. And why, you know how the game works here. Why are you really good at what you do? Brag for just a second. Come up to that line of fiction and cross over.
Well, I think that I am a change agent. In fact, I know that I am a change agent, because in just about every opportunity that I have sought, it has been with a technology or with a certain social phenomena that is now changing the marketplace or how people work. So I would look for what would be changing the market, or what would be changing operations, what would be changing how people work, with just about every jump in industry that I've made. I've got an extremely eclectic background, from tech to software to services.
Do you have a preference in which one you want to work in?
I'm not as up to date on tech as I used to be, so I have a feeling that other people would be much more qualified to do the tech part of it, just because of that's how people think, that if you're not right up on tech, then you're gone. I love software as a service, and I like the services. I like the professional services.
Okay. I just challenge you, as you are thinking about who do you want to teach and all of those sorts of things, your answers right now are pretty broad and vague, which I'm not sure some of you are like, I don't understand why this is a problem.
It needs to be narrowing.
Yeah, you got to make it easy for people to choose you. And by saying, oh, I can kind of do, like when you tell somebody, I can kind of do anything, just put me on the problem, it means that the person you're telling can actually go, oh, this is the problem that this person solves.
Right. So, it's a mile wide and an inch
exactly.
deep.
And so if, as an example, and this is why, like, as you're thinking about who it is, and this is for everybody, as you're thinking about who is it you want to teach, I always, when I work with people, I always go, look backwards and tell me where you had the most fun. Like, you can do anything. Like, I can clean a bathroom, not super fun in the Joanna world, right? So I don't clean bathrooms. I am, however, obsessive on laundry. I will not let anybody touch my laundry, because I'm like, I have rules and they need to be here. So I will not wash a bathroom. I will wash underwear. And I know that's kind of weird, but it's an example of actually tapping into who you are and how you tick, because the clearer you are about who you are and how you tick and where you can add value, the easier it is for people to recognize. And I'm going to give you all some really kind of well-known examples. Like, if I told you you got to hire Elon Musk, to do whatever, you kind of already have a pretty good idea of what he could do for you. I mean, he's going to be a bit bananas in the process, or if like Ruth Bader Ginsburg sadly have not passed away, very different character, but you'd know exactly, you'd get somebody in RGB who had an ethics level that was off the chart, had a collaboration attitude that could reach across the aisle, and had a, well, maybe it's not ethics, it's justice, I don't know what it is, and had a level of discipline that, like, good Lord. Like, these are the kind of stories that you want to talk about. Now, listening to you, just to give you something really simple to work with, in listening to you around what is it you're trying to teach somebody, is you're actually trying to teach somebody, like, you don't want to come in and do like, I want to do the strategy, not the tactics, which is really what you told me. You were like, I don't want to do another tactical sales job. I want to do a strategic sales job. Well, you know what? Everybody wants to do a strategic sales job. So I then sit here and go, okay, so what is the story that you need to tell? And what I created for you here is actually a graphic of a problem set. I don't know if you can see, you know what? I'm going to turn off my virtual background because it's hard to see this stuff. There we go. That's much better.
Change in market strategy, implement growth. Yeah.
Right. This with your narrative. And so this is where you start, is like, so as you're looking at your different verticals and where you could be a strategist, what are the market dynamics that are changing? And so if I was going to say this to somebody else, I'd say, look, you know, there are sales organizations out there that understand there has been a fundamental shift in how their sales strategy needs to be implemented. Now, the good news is, because of the pandemic, I think this is universal. So everybody has, so you kind of can fit it anywhere, which then means whatever their old process was doesn't work anymore. They need a new strategy. But strategy isn't enough. You have to then be able to implement it and then grow and scale it into the future. And so when I look at how to help sales organizations drive to the future and the kind of sales organization that I would like to lead, it's one that already knows they need to make a shift, because I'm here to help them build the strategy, implement it, and help them grow to the future that they want. Then you tear out this piece of paper and you hand it to the person you just told it to. Okay, feedback. How many of you guys on this call now have a better idea of what Trisha is looking for and how to sell what it is she wants to be able to do for a company? Yeah,
oh, definitely. Oh,
much
definitely.
faster, much easier. Now, do you still have to have the resume and the LinkedIn profile and all the things? Yes. But this makes the teaching other people. And again, if you tear this out and give it to people, it becomes much easier. Should we do, Kelly, we've got time for another one? Yes, we do. Let's do another one.
Yes, we have Amy that volunteered this time.
Amy, where are you? Oh, there you are, Amy. Okay. You heard the questions. First of all, who do we need to teach and why?
Okay, so just real quick before I even go there, I have not seen you since we were walking on the beach in Nicaragua. And so I am so excited that I finally got off my butt and joined this call.
That was probably one of my favorite vacations ever. I'm just going to put that out there.
It was amazing.
Kind to go. So pro tip for everybody, we're going to do a call out to Erica Gregg and the folks at Escape to Shape. They're amazing. When you are ready to do a vacation, they are ridiculous. You should look it up. It's fantastic. And then you get to meet awesome. But Amy, I don't even think about how many years it's been. All right.
So I think I told you this then, that I wanted a new job and I have not done anything about it. So I do want a new job. And at the same time, I have a couple people on my team who really want new jobs. And I feel like I'm only, like I could do better at helping them get there than what I'm doing right now. So it's a little bit of two things I want to be able to do.
Okay. Here's what I would like to do, because I do think this will actually help you do it for yourself. And then you're going to ping me separately, because Nicaragua was fantastic and we need to go down a little trip down memory lane there. We need to go on another trip is what we need to do. is how about we do this for, like, talk through your team? Because when I talk about this, when I talk about how you can help other people too, like, think about for a second the job you are in when you are having the most fun and being your very best self. And it's when you really understood how, like, why you were valuable, and you were excited and curious about what you were going to do, and you knew it for yourself and you knew it for everybody else on the team, and they knew it for you. Like, when you are in that beautiful moment when everybody, and I say trust lightly, but everybody believes in each other's potential, all of the bullshit, all of the politics, the one-upmanship, the talking behind people's back, competition, all of that vanishes, because there's this beautiful moment of, like, I need you and you need me, and it's together that we make all sorts of magic happen. And so well, yes, absolutely, this is kind of a no-brainer that this is super helpful for getting a new job, but if you've got a team that needs to learn how to play together better, the first thing that usually needs helping and untangling is, what is each other's potential and how you can think about it. So do you mind if we do them a tiny bit? Can we do them?
That's awesome.
Awesome. Can you give me a name, of just a first name, just so we know who we're talking about?
Okay, Maggie.
Maggie. Okay. So what is Maggie, like, just so I understand, what is Maggie's job like as a normal person? Names.
Maggie does internal communication for one specific line of business at our company. And she knows that group really well, and she's been working with that group for a couple of years, and she wants to sort of get to the next level, probably working with multiple groups. But I think the perception from some of the business leaders in those other areas is she needs to move laterally before she can move into a bigger role where she's really managing more people.
Why do you think they need to see a lateral? Because they need to see it replicated, or?
Yeah, it's kind of, she works with a group right now who I'll say they're easier than some of the other client groups. And so they want to see how she does with one of the tough groups before they're willing to, you have to do the job before they're willing to give it to you.
Are they easy because she's made it easy for them?
A little bit of both. They're easier, but no client is easy.
Yes. Do you think that's fair feedback, that she needs to do the tough group?
I think it could be fair, but I also think until she gets the tough group, until she gets that role, how are we going to know that she can do it? She has shown that she can. She's shown that she's got potential, and they realize she's got potential. They just don't know if it's time yet, or if she needs to.
Do you think there's a hidden, because boy, the time yet thing is such a loaded statement. Like, let's pretend for a second she had actually done the tough group and actually knocked it out of the park. Do you think they'd be like, no brainer, we're going to promote you? Or are there other obstacles in the way that they're not really talking about?
They probably don't know her well enough. And my boss is in the room advocating for her, but I probably won't be in the room advocating for her. So I need to convince him so that he can convince everyone else.
Okay. So listening through to all of this, it's kind of a really unique situation, because I'm guessing she's a tiny bit bored, and nobody wants a bored employee. Like, I am horrifying if I am bored. This is not a problem in my current state. And do you think your boss gets that if you lose Maggie, that it would be a really, really big problem for the organization? Like, would he fight for her?
He gets that losing her would suck big time. He also knows that she's been around for 15 years and doesn't think there's much of a risk there.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's unpack some of this. So in the what I've kind of been talking about there is when you're thinking about selling a product, I'm almost kind of sitting here going like, what are the objections we need to uncover here that need to be overcome? Because especially if like, and let's just focus this to, I would suggest at the moment that your boss is kind of the key person to teach. I'd also say like one of the best ways to give her the tough group opportunity is to give the tough group a little bit of FOMO on why she's awesome. Like, what an interesting way. If the tough group came and said, well, we want Maggie, right? And so when I sit here and say that, like, I'm a big fan of the idea of giving people experiments, because if the tough group is tough, my guess is whoever's running internal comms at the moment is probably overwhelmed and overstressed. Now, whoever that person is needs to not be freaked out that somebody else is going to pay, but is there something that Maggie could do in a small way that could then show that she's working with the tough group, give them an example of how she would think differently with them, not threaten the current incumbent person, and give people a real example on who it is and what it's about. So just an idea of how to navigate that through that could go, I think the decision makers there are the person who has the job and your current boss there. But let's talk about the graphic for Maggie. Why is she good at what she does?
She is super even keeled, takes it all in stride, can get feedback from 10 different people saying 10 different things and pull it all together and come up with a solution that works for everyone.
Okay, what else?
Gosh, the other stuff is the boring stuff that I'm trying to stay away from. She's creative, she's easy to work from, easy to work with.
Okay. Give me an example of a problem that she solved that she thought that could have been put in kind of like the tough category.
So so when we moved 3,000 customer service representatives who had never worked from home ever in their lives to work from home in a 9-day time period, she did all of the communication and some of the logistics.
Okay. How did she know? That's a good example. I'm trying to think because I've got easy button on there.
Oh, I like that.
You know what I want to do, because I'm listening, I'm going to make something up because I have a funny feeling that this is part of they can't see, that what they can't see is I actually wrote future in here. So here's I've given you a Venn diagram for Maggie. Now I've written words in there right now because I am not an artist. But I think you could actually just you could have the words, but actually drop pictures in there. So you remember the pictures that I showed up earlier? Like this first one, I said synthesizer without emotion. I almost want to put an ear, so she's a listener, right? As an ear in here. And the words you say around, like when you describe it, you say, look, when I think about Maggie, there's really 3 things that she brings to the table. One, she seems to be able to synthesize a lot of ideas and things without emotion, which is critically important for internal comms because there's a lot of emotion. It's all emotion in internal comms. Second of all, she is powered, and you can get a graphic of it's an easy button really easily. You just do one with the like ding dang down. She's powered by the concept of how do I make this easy? It's almost like she is the easy button of communications. So whether the team looks easy or is not easy, she's always optimizing for easy, because when you optimize for easy, it makes it simple for the other person to participate. And then last but not least, this is the thing that I don't think people see. And it is that Maggie is always looking into the future state of where we need to be versus where we are. So while her work might look tactical in nature, It's actually predictive of the future state, which is why when we shifted 3,000 people from working in the office to working at home, it went almost flawlessly. And it's these three things that tell the amazing story of Maggie. Am I right?
You are. This is so great. I feel like I'm taking up all the time on this session, but boy, I love it.
This is why people come back to the show on a regular basis, because everybody gets to put their hand up at some point. But this is how you can do it for somebody else. I think this was a really great lesson for everybody, because these graphics, actually doing them for other people becomes really helpful, incredible. And again, you tear the graphic out and you leave this with your boss, even in a not pretty version. Even if you like, I would leave this version here. And I talk about that because if you guys have not heard my Cinderella rant, or many Cinderella rants, I want to talk about that for a second. I know you all remember the moment in the Cinderella story when the bells started going bong, 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 and it was midnight and Cinderella needed to book it off the property because Cinderella was really good at hitting deadlines. Just going to point that out. She had potential too. And she books it out and there's a shoe left on the stairs. And I know everybody kind of says, ooh, that was a magic accident. Bull hooey. It was not an accident. I think the fairy godmother had a lot to do with this, because the fairy godmother had put the limitation of midnight on Cinderella to create, let's be real, a tiny bit of FOMO for the prince. Now, let's talk about what happened after midnight. Prince is standing on the stairs. The love of his life, in theory, has gone. And he is standing there. The professional equivalent of that is your decision maker has just had an awesome interview with you and goes, oh my God, Trisha, Amy, Cindy, Ariana, whoever is freaking awesome. Guess what? They're going to interview somebody else. The prince also had the opportunity to go back into the ballroom where, I'm taking a wild guess, there were some other awesome lady people for him to dance with. But he didn't, because he had the shoe. Then the next morning, after the party had ended and all of this sort of stuff, he had to get up the next morning and go to his decision makers, aka mom and dad, the king and queen of Fantasyland, and go, hey mom, hey dad, guess what? Found the one. Don't know who she is, but look at this shoe. Look how delicate her foot is. This is apparently teeny tiny feet are a criteria in Fantasyland. Whatever, but look at this. The shoe became a way for him to teach other people in his decision-making circle why Cinderella is so awesome. Last but not least, as we all know in the story, the shoe was used to find her. The shoe was the fairy tale equivalent of corporate swag. Companies have them all day. Why don't you? You can absolutely. And does this mean you need to go out and buy like a thing you need to give people? No, you can see this is a crappy piece of paper with a drawing on it that tells the story of the amazing and awesome Maggie. And it can be this simple. And this is the power of using visuals to tell a story. And you can use them in just this simple way, or you can go nuts and create a website, or you can put them on your LinkedIn profile. And if you see, a lot of the people who have worked with me in the past have started to put some of their graphics in their information, their featured section on their LinkedIn profile, or put as backgrounders on their LinkedIn profile. Like that first impression that you are offering on your digital platform can make such a difference. But do also remember, it's about giving this to other people so that they can teach others about the future you. And the power of imagery, as we talked about with the Coca-Cola bottle, as we talk about with Cinderella, really makes a fantastic difference. So we have gone a little long. We're gonna, for those of you that want to stick around, we're absolutely going to do Q&A. We're happy to stay on the call a little bit longer than usual today, because I know we went through the examples. So if you have questions, stick around. But Kelly, before we roll off, who is today's winner?
Today's winner is Johanna.
Congrats. Oh, I love it, Johanna. To Joanna with an H. Very excited.
Yay, thank you.
With information. I look forward to meeting you on our upcoming call.